All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 215. And today, if anyone thinks that I look surprisingly similar to how I looked yesterday, it's because I'm recording this directly after the Critical Role Campaign 4 announcement because I am feeling really, really sick and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out of bed tomorrow. So I want to make this video today so that I finally get to cover this topic, which is a lot of the not D&D or Daggerheart related announcements that had happened at Gencon. As I have mentioned many times before, Gen Con is the biggest tabletop convention in North America. It is huge. It's one of the biggest in the world, and a lot of people, because specifically the US market is the largest market in the world for all of this shit, a lot of stuff gets announced there. We covered the massive Daggerheart news. We covered the D&D news. But there was a ton of other things that got announced there that I haven't been able to talk about because the things that are announced are not enough to make a full video. So I'm actually going to just combine a bunch of different stories into one video so you guys can get as much information as possible. So, and specifically, I'm going to be focusing on TTRPGs. There was a lot of board games and other stuff like that, like new miniature lines that are coming to Kickstarters and stuff like that. I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to talk about the TTRPGs because those are the things that I am most connected with, and I think you guys like the most when I talk about it. So, without any further ado, let's talk about some non-D&D / Daggerheart stuff. So, the first thing that kind of blew my mind when it got announced, Need Games, and according to their official Twitter, they're also a company named Panini. I have no idea who Panini is. I wasn't able to look up any information on them. But according to Need Games, they said at Gen Con, Panini and Need Games announced the development of the first TRPG based on the manga written and illustrated by Hajime Iesama. Dedicate your heart and take on the role of members of the Survey Corps in this TRPG that will use the Year Zero engine, Attack on Titan. So they're making a role-playing a TTRPG for Attack on Titan. If you're not familiar with Need Games, you should be. Need Games is the publisher that created Fabula Ultima, which I used for one of my daily December campaigns. Not this past December, but the one before that. I ran a 4-shot of Fabula Ultima, and it's phenomenal. It is one of my favorite systems I've ever seen. I've done reviews of all the Fabula Ultima books. They are wonderful. So, in addition to them making that deluxe edition of Fabula Ultima that theoretically is supposed to be going to Kickstarter, I think at the beginning of the year, next year, they're also going to be developing this Attack on Titan role-playing game, and they're using the Year Zero engine. If you're not familiar with that, I did do an in-depth review of a game called Mutant Year Zero. That was the first game that used the Year Zero engine. It is a rules-light engine that, for lack of a better term, the only system I've seen that uses it has been Mutant Year Zero, and that in and of itself was this post-apocalyptic kind of wasteland exploration thing. And it's a really cool system. I think it's great. So I do find it interesting that Need Games, which has developed their own system, is now using someone else's system to create a TTRPG. But to be blunt, the idea of Attack on Titan, I don't know if you've seen the anime or read the manga or anything like that. It has a lot more in common with a post-apocalyptic style story than it has with something like Fabula Ultima, where it's about heroes saving the world. People die a lot in Attack on Titan, and it's like the series itself is kind of based on the idea of just fighting this hopeless battle against creatures that are just far, far beyond anything that you'll ever be able to defeat. So the idea of using the Year Zero engine for it, if it works in a similar way to how it did in Mutant Year Zero, and I know a lot of other games have used the Year Zero engine. I haven't read any of them. I might own a few of them because I have quite a few RPGs now that I haven't read yet. But yeah, so that in and of itself really cool. I find it interesting that it's coming out now because Attack on Titan was huge like 6 or 7 years ago. When it first came out, when the anime first came out, especially when it started getting popular over here, like it was absolutely everywhere. And there's a bunch of Attack on Titan video games. Like it became this huge thing. And then the series ended, and I won't spoil the ending of the series, but it's intense and weird. And since then, like, nobody talks about it. So I find it interesting that now we're getting this Attack on Titan role-playing game. I don't know if that means that there are other things happening with Attack on Titan, or it's just like, well, it's a cool idea. Like, the idea of Attack on Titan is amazingly cool. So we'll see. And again, I really like Need Games. I think they're a phenomenal company. They react to feedback really, really well. And they have like Discord servers that I belong to two of them. I'm on a specifically, I think, a Fabula Ultima Discord server, and then I have another one that's just for the. Oh no, I'm on the Fabula Ultima Discord server, and then I'm also on the guy that created Fabula Ultima. He has a personal Discord server that I'm on, and they're always really, really nice about responding to feedback and things like that. So love that absolutely to death. So that was one of the first things that blew my mind, and then this is the other thing that absolutely destroyed me. Sword World 2.5 is coming to the US in English. Now, if anyone's trying to figure out what in the hell is Sword World 2.5, well, remember how I've talked about a few times the idea of while D&D is the #1 tabletop RPG in the world, it's not the #1 tabletop RPG in every single country. Things like Brazil, they actually have a local fantasy TTRPG that's really, really popular over there that I can't remember right now. But there were Brazilian fans that used to tell me how wrong I was about Brazil. So anyone from Brazil or anyone that knows about Brazil, put the name of the TTRPGs that are real big in Brazil there. And in Japan, I've mentioned the #1 tabletop RPG by far is Call of Cthulhu. However, the second most popular tabletop RPG, depending on where you're measuring it, is also not Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons does exist in Japan. Japan actually just did a new advertising campaign for D&D, or maybe Wizard of the Coast just did a new advertising campaign for D&D in Japan. So it does exist there. It's just not the most popular. I believe the second most popular TTRPG and the most popular fantasy TTRPG is Sword World. And Sword World actually comes from another thing that was groundbreaking in the world, which is the Record of Lodoss War. If you're unfamiliar with that, the Record of Lodoss War was a light novel series that eventually was turned into an anime series. And the thing that made it so interesting is it was one of the first examples of what's called a replay now in Japan. Replays are basically where you effectively novelize a TTRPG campaign that's going on. You basically just retell what happened in it from a narrative perspective. And Record of Lodoss War was one of the first really popular replays that existed. And one of the reasons it was so popular was it was a D&D campaign that was played by a bunch of established authors. One of them, if I remember correctly, was a really big science fiction author. And so all these people already understood storytelling and things like that. And so as they were publishing their replay in a local magazine, I think it was, it became really, really popular, and it turned into the Record of Lodoss War, which the anime itself, I think, ran for like 2 or 3 seasons. I think there were some OAVs, I think that's what original OVAs, original video animations. So basically movies for it. It was really, really popular, and it defined what people thought Dungeons and Dragons was. If you there was a video that came out, or 2 of them actually, 2 arcade beat 'em ups that came out for Dungeons and Dragons, the Tower of Druga or Tower of something, Tower of Doom, and another one. Anyway, you can get them on Steam right now. They're called the Mystara Chronicles. They're unbelievably fun, but if you look at them, they don't look like D&D characters. They look like anime characters, especially like the elf that you can play, because you get to pick a character, which is basically the class. And since it was based on original D&D, because I think it came out in the 80s, the classes were, there was a fighter, there was an elf, there was a dwarf, and there was a cleric. And the elf, all of them, first of all, are super hyper anime inspired. And the elf wears green, has a little shield and a sword, and looks like just very, very distinct. And the reason why is the elf is based on Deedlit from Record of Lodoss War. The dwarf is designed to look like the dwarven character that I can't remember his name. So anyway, after playing and publishing their first replay using D&D, they started feeling limited with D&D as a system to be able to tell the stories that they wanted. So they created their own system, and in 1989 they published that system for other people to use, and they called it Sword World. Sword World is immensely popular in Japan, and only in Japan. Well, technically no, but it's never been translated to English. There have been fan translations, which are okay. I can neither confirm nor deny that I may or may not own one of these Sword World 2.5 fan translations. But it's never actually been localized to the US, despite the fact that with how big Record of Lodoss War was in the US, and just how big TTRPGs have been, we've been asking for it for years to get a version of Sword World that we could play over here. And now it's happening. A company called Mugen Gaming is going to be doing it. They're apparently going to be launching a Kickstarter early next year to fund it. But they're going to release what's referred to as the deluxe edition of Sword World, because Sword World right now, actually the deluxe edition already exists in Japan. So, but when it was originally released, there was basically like 3 different books that you would need to be able to play Sword World, and they weren't like Player's Guide, Dungeon Master's Guide, Bestiary. No, they were like low level, mid level, and high level. Effectively, they weren't exactly that. That was kind of how it worked. And so they have like a deluxe edition that puts all 3 of the books into one and prints it in kind of a normal book format, whereas the old Sword World books are in kind of small paperback format. So the editing and stuff like that is weird for people that are more used to kind of your standard 8.5 by 11 books, or A4 if we're going with European measurements. So, yeah, Sword World is finally coming to the US. One of the unique things about Sword World is they don't have kind of like a rigid class system like you find in D&D. It's one of the reasons it was created, because the players didn't like how rigid the class system was in D&D. You can have classes and subclasses, and it's kind of a hybrid between like a skill-based and a class-based TTRPG. And you can really kind of customize and grow your characters. It also uses a 2d6 system for the dice, as opposed to kind of your standard D20 system where you have to use the whole polyhedral dice set. So one of the other reasons why Sword World was so popular is because you could play it with just some D6s. You didn't have to have a whole set of polyhedral dice, which is necessary for a lot of other TTRPGs. I think that might be one of the other reasons why Cthulhu is so popular, because it's a percentile-based system. So you just need 2d10 for the vast majority of your rolls. So yeah, this is really, really big news. For me personally, I love Record of Lodoss War. I think it's amazing. And I really like Sword World. Like I said, I have tried to weave through the English the fan translation of Sword World 2.5, just because I think it's such an interesting and unique system. And now being able to actually get an officially translated Sword World, I am beyond thrilled. I want it very, very badly. So yeah, I've already signed up for their mailing list, so I know as soon as it goes live. And one of the other interesting things about signing up for their mailing list, they claim if you sign up for their mailing list, they will send you a free kind of intro adventure that comes with some pre-generated characters and all the rules that you need to be able to play it, so you can get an idea of how to play the system. So if you're interested in actually learning how the system plays and not wanting to have to wait for like another year or so to be able to find that out, and you don't want to play with fan translations, just I'll have a link in the description to the Sword World website, and right near the top, you have to scroll down a little bit, but it's a real long web page. There's a place you can put your email in, and it specifically says here the one shot will be sent out at the beginning of August. It is the beginning of August, but there's more of the beginning of August, so I'm assuming we should get it within the next week here. So yeah, that's super cool. The next really big thing that's going on, Free League, which has put out a bunch of different TTRPGs. They've even Free League Publishing is the name of the company, and they've published a bunch of different TTRPGs. I believe they're one of the partners at D&D Beyond, where you can get Free League stuff purchased on D&D Beyond. I'm trying to see. Yeah, Dragonbane, Forbidden Lands. Oh, they do the One Ring as well. So yeah, Free League does the One Ring conversion. I love the One Ring. It's super, super cool. So yeah, there are just tons and tons of... Stop it. Sorry. That was probably really loud. I apologize for that. There was a fly or something. It was annoying me. I apologize. They also do Morkborg, and just tons and tons of stuff. So anyway, Free League has announced that they're going to be publishing a game called Twilight Sword, which I'm going to read directly from the Wargamer press release about it. A tabletop RPG that's heavily inspired by Zelda, Final Fantasy, and Studio Ghibli. And if you look at the artwork that they have for it, oh my, like, the main hero that they show in the cover is basically Zelda with a sword. Like, it 100% looks like Zelda wearing the hero's tunic from Breath of the Wild. And then they have another picture of her with purple hair, because why not? And I mean, it screams Breath of the Wild, effectively. The interesting thing about Twilight Sword is... I'm going to close this stuff down because I've got so many different web pages open. The interesting thing about Twilight Sword is the kind of point of the game. So what you are supposed to do in Twilight Sword is the world of, what's it called? The Realm of Radia has been attacked and kind of taken over by the Scourge Vardis. And the world itself has been plunged into desperation. So the point of the game is you travel around defeating monsters and helping townspeople to generate a resource called hope. Not hope from like in the Daggerheart sense, but hope as in the world is becoming a brighter place. And that's kind of how you play the game. Is you go around, you literally travel around the map creating little points of hope to try and fight back the Scourge Vardis and eventually kind of confront them. So probably a little bit more kind of pointed and story. I don't want to say story focused, but very much directed, I guess, TTRPG than a lot of other ones, because kind of the goal of the TTRPG, they kind of reveal the big baddie before you even start playing. But it looks wonderful and amazing, and just because that's, you know, how it's designed to be played doesn't mean that you have to go against Vardis. I mean, once the system comes out, if you understand templating, you can probably do some really, really cool stuff. So this one I'm really, really excited about. Apparently they're going to be running a Kickstarter relatively soon. I can't remember if this Kickstarter is going to be running in the next month or so, or if it's another one that's going to start at the beginning of next year. But there will be a Kickstarter or backer kit or something for this as well. So that in and of itself, very, very cool. I am very, very excited about it. So yeah, moving on. There is a company, what are they called? Magpie Games. They have announced a bunch of new things. One of the things that I am most interested in, there is a game called Masks, A New Generation. It's a Powered by the Apocalypse TTRPG. And it's all about kind of like Teen Titans style superhero adventures. You are like a kid or a high schooler, something around that level, that also is a superhero that has a mask that allows them to do superhero things. And so you have to kind of balance being a superhero and saving the world with also passing your science test. So it's pretty cool. They have announced that they're doing a Masks, A New Generation 2nd edition. They have very, very little information about it, other than, hey, sign up to our emailing list. But they officially announced 2nd edition of Masks is coming. Magpie is also putting out a TTRPG called Temeraire, which is based on a book series called by an author named Naomi Novik. I don't know anything about this, but since I'm talking about Masks, I thought I should also mention that they're going to be putting out this other TTRPG. So those are interesting. I have no idea if that one's going to be Powered by the Apocalypse as well or not. But the description of the game directly from Magpie is Temeraire, the role-playing game, allows you and your friends to take on the roles of soldiers and dragons in the Napoleonic Wars, fighting for home, for freedom, and for each other. How will your squadron of dragons and riders reshape the world? There's only one way to find out. So if you ever thought that the Napoleonic Wars were boring without the introduction of dragons, then here you go. So that in and of itself sounds cool. I am a sucker for anything that involves dragons just in general. So I am hesitantly excited about that. We will see what happens with it. And then the final kind of big update that I got from Gencon comes from our Talsorian Games. If you're not familiar with them, they make the Cyberpunk series. The current newest version, or the current version of Cyberpunk is called Cyberpunk Red. I do own that one because I got it as part of that big mega bundle of TTRPGs. So they announced a bunch of things for Cyberpunk Red. One of them is a single-player mode. This is taken directly from the R. Talsorian Games website. Single-player mode, a solo play guide / Game Master emulator for Cyberpunk Red, created and developed in cooperation with Peter Norton of Hollow Pond's Solo Saga. Digital and print-on-demand product via drive-through RPG gives players the tools to generate and play Cyberpunk Red missions without a game master. It does require the Cyberpunk Red core rulebook to play, and it'll be out in late summer, early fall 2025. So in the next couple months here, we should be seeing single-player mode for Cyberpunk Red, which is super, super cool. They're also releasing a book called Night City 2045, which, again, just going to read from here. Contains over 450 locations with links to night cities of 2020 and 2077. By the way, for anyone that doesn't know, the original version of Cyberpunk was released in, I think, the 80s or very early 90s, and it was Cyberpunk 2020. That was the first version of it. And then there's, as it got closer to 2020, obviously Cyberpunk 2077 is the video game. And then Cyberpunk Red, I believe, is set somewhere. I don't know if it's set in 2045 or if it's actually set in 2077, but that. They list a bunch of the writers here. And then we'll also be releasing a poster-sized map of Night City circa 2045 as a separate product. And aiming for the end of 2025 or early 2026 for that. Then they also talked about Interface Red Volume 5, basically all of the kind of, they call it Cyberpunk Red DLC from 2024. Basically just a lot of supplemental material that has been released for Cyberpunk Red, all collected in one. D&D used to do this with Dungeon and Dragon magazine. You would get these you would get these compilations of not the full magazine, but all of the stuff that was in it that would be useful. You would get those in little compilations, so that was cool. And then they also mention a Cyberpunk 2077 campaign book. So if you really like the video game, now you can have an actual 2077 campaign. They specifically say it won't be a full rule book or a world source book. It's going to be an actual 2077 campaign. So very similar to the stuff that D&D releases every year, where it's an adventure book. That's what it's going to be. The first portion of the book will present the full rules for playing Cyberpunk Red in the Edge Runners Cyberpunk 2077 era. The second portion will be a full multi-mission campaign taking place in Night City in the Edge Runners Cyberpunk 2077 era. It's made in close cooperation with CD Projekt Red, and gamers can take these rules and run their own adventures and campaigns in that era. Without playing the included campaign, we intend the rules to be comprehensive, and it's aiming to release sometime next year. And they also mentioned that Rusted Chrome, which is going to be another source book, I believe, has been put on hold due to other production stuff going on. I have no idea what Rusted Chrome was, but they specifically say, we know Cyberpunk Red fans are looking forward to it, but we need to focus our efforts right now. So I'm assuming a book has been not canceled, but delayed indefinitely. And that's what that means. So yeah, tons of stuff for Cyberpunk Red in our Talsorian games. So yeah. So overall, like I said, tons of stuff going on. And it is Saturday night that I am recording this. So theoretically, something could be announced on Sunday. In general, not a whole lot gets announced on Sunday because Sunday for Gencon is only like half a day. And people are basically, since they're not going to be staying there, a lot of people are like getting checked out of their hotels and all these other things. So Sunday tends to be a slightly quieter day for Gencon as they just kind of wind down the convention. So theoretically, I might be missing an announcement that happens on Sunday, but I'm probably going to be sleeping all day Sunday to try and get my brain to stop hating me. Whether or not that works, we will find out later. But yeah, overall, Gen Con, I gotta say, all the stuff that got announced at Gen Con was really, really amazing. I don't think I have been disappointed in any of the announcements that I found, and I don't think there was anything that I was kind of hoping there would be an announcement for that I didn't get. And like I said, a lot of things I was expecting. Was not expecting Sword World to get translated into English. Like I said, we have been asking for well over a decade to get an English translation of Sword World, and it's never been a priority in any way, shape, or form. And now we're finally getting it. Need Games doing a bunch of cool stuff. The new Zelda TTRPG, for lack of a better term, what was it, Twilight Sword? That looks really, really cool. The new, again, I'm really starting to get into these solo TTRPGs. So a solo version of Cyberpunk Red, I think, would be really, really cool, and you could tell some messed up stories with that. Yeah, interested to hear from you guys. First of all, are there any announcements that I didn't mention here that you think I should have? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, it's going to be all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.